אנחנו נלמד מתוך שיעור תעש עם הרבש, נקרא מתוך תלמוד
We're going to study with Rabash, a lesson from Tess. We're going to read volume 2, part 5, page 308, item 22.
מה כתוב? כלא נקרא כלא אחת, אבל עוד נקרא
He writes lights. What's written? The vessel is called one vessel, alone, and the lights are called 10. We've learned this is because when the light departs, everything is called one vessel, and not 10 vessels. Conversely, the lights within them. Therefore, what does he interpret? It enters and exits 10 times. This is why they are called 10 lights. But the vessel is made at once in one departure, when it departed at once. For this reason, it is called one vessel. 22 below, inner light. Therefore, there's an awakening from the 10 exits and entries, but the vessel is made at once. What is he saying here? Compared to the vessel, all these departures are regarded as one departure, since here there is still only one vessel, which is only the vessel of Malchut. There is no recognition of a vessel in the first 9 Sefirot. And all those exits and entries made in it are considered one long vessel, whose parts are not equal, as the Ari says above in item 19. Know that all these are preparations for the correction of the 10 vessels in the 10 Sefirot. Matters are done gradually. In the first expansion of Ak in Parzuf Galgalta, there is still no recognition through the departure, even in the discernment in the lights. And it is not evident that they are 10 lights. In the second expansion, there is a discernment in the 10 Sefirot that they are 10 lights. And in the expansion of the 10 Sefirot, in the world of Nikudim, there was a correction of lines there, which he calls 10 Sefirot. There is a recognition of the 10 vessels in the Gal, and not in the 7 lower Sefirot. In the world of Atzilut, the matter is completed, and 10 complete vessels are made in all 10 Sefirot. Here he doesn't interpret. He only gives us guidelines, and he says, know that there's a difference in Parzuf Galgalta, there in the departure. There is still no recognition through the departure, even in the discernment in the lights. And it is not evident that there are 10 lights. Why doesn't he interpret? In the second expansion in Ab, if so, we should say Sag. And it was, there is a discernment in the 10 Sefirot that they are 10 lights. But the vessel is one vessel. And in the expansion of the 10 Sefirot in the world of Nikudim, there is a recognition of the 10 vessels in the Gal, which he calls the correction of lines. He calls them 10 vessels. Why? We need to learn. But in the lower 7, there was no correction of lines. In the world of Atzilut, 10 complete vessels are made, which is called correction of the lines. Also in the Gufim, not necessarily in the Gal, but also in the Zat. He doesn't interpret. He only says some rules. 23. These four phases are the actual four letters.
הם מציאו דלת אותות הוויה.
Havaya.
שדלת בחינת אלו,
These four phases
למדנו שני פעם
we've learned
הסתלקות,
twice, the expansion and the departure. They are four letters Havaya.
ידוו,
The Yud Vav are two phases of expansion.
והי
And the Hey Hey are two phases of departure. You already know that the name Havaya begins only from Chokhmah downward. The reason, from the 10. The reason is that these four phases belong only to Chokhmah and under. But Keter contains only two phases. And correspondingly, it is called Yud Hey. Yud Hey Vav Hey. This is the meaning of for in Ko is the Lord Havaya, an everlasting rock. This is because he first began to picture and create the world in them. This is the meaning of Akudim, which are the Yud Hey Havaya. Since Yud Hey in Keter, Havaya in all the other Partzufim. What does it mean? He first began to picture and create the world in them. And there's also Ab, Sag. Why precisely these two? We could give the following answer. We've learned that the worlds are ultimately as seal and imprint. As they emerge the first time, so they continue. However, we have two roots. One root in the vessels and one root from the lights. This means, he says in Parzuf Galgalta, when the light shone, there was light and vessels mixed with each other. So you can't discuss the light or the vessel. Only after the departure of the lights, the vessels remain. Therefore, we say, first, the vessels remain and the records remain in the vessels, the light of Keter in the vessel of Keter, the light of Chokhmah in the vessel of Chokhmah, and this extends from the root of the vessels. And the first time that light comes into the vessel was in the Parzuf Ab. Therefore, when we talk about lights, seal, and imprint, where's the root of lights? In Parzuf Ab. Therefore, we can interpret what he says here, that in Ko Havaya, he depicted these two Parzufim in Ab and Sag. Ab and Galgalta are called Yud Kei, Havaya it's called, and this is difficult here, which are the Yud Kei Havaya, since Yud He in Keter, Havaya in all the other Parzufim. Meaning, in all the other Parzufim, I want to interpret that as well. Also, with regards to that.
To that?
This is a difficult language.
What does it mean?
Galgalta.
Galgalta, all of the parts of Galgalta.
Havaya. It is called Ak. So in all the other Parzufim, below Galgalta, that's what I want to interpret. Havaya already extends in the other Parzufim. It extends from below. There's already Havaya, but they are from two roots and no more. One from the side of the vessels, the other one from the side of the lights. Therefore, he said, this is the meaning of, for in Ko is the Lord Havaya, an everlasting rock. This is because he first began to picture and create the world in them. 23.
He says,
Parzuf Galgalta only has two phases, Yud, K. And in Ab, there's Havaya, inner light. The Yud Vav are two phases of expansion. And the Hey are two phases of departure. The expansion is called male, the departure is called female, deficiency. Hey refers to deficiencies. Yud refers to light. The first expansion is the Yud. There was still no complete expansion. The second expansion is the Vav. There's already complete expansion, which is then called by the name 10 lights until the expansion of expanded and not expanded. The first departure is the first Hey, and the second departure is the last Hey. What is difficult here? We'll see afterwards. If he says vessels are called deficiencies, and Yud, Hey, Vav, is that deficiencies or expansion?
expansion.
Therefore, this is letters. It appears this way. He interprets.
Dot.
He interprets. Havaya begins only from Chokhmah downward. It is known that Yud means Chokhmah. Vav means Zaranpin. The first Hey means Binah, and the last Hey means Malchut. Keter, however, is not implied in the four letters, except in the tip of the Yud. This is so for the reason that the Ari explains below. So we need to begin with item 24. He's asking, what's written in page 308 below in the inner light. This is the reason for the refinement and the departure of lights of the first expansion of Akudim, as well as the Mate and not Mati of the second expansion of Akudim. Since the 10 inner lights and the 10 surrounding lights are connected and tied in one vessel. This is since the 10 inner lights and 10 surrounding lights are connected and tied in one vessel. So the Rav says, they strike and clash with one another. By the light departs.
Hence, the coarseness in the screen is refined and the lights depart. It is the same manner in all those 10 exits and 10 entrances that were here in the second expansion. Who caused it? They too are for the reason that the surrounding light and inner light that are connected together in their root, in Malchut of the Rosh, strike each other as they depart from there to the Guf. Why do they strike? Since the screen prevents the surrounding light from expanding to its place in the Guf, meaning from the tabu downward. It also wants to shine. For this reason, the surrounding light refines the screen, and then the screen cannot tolerate and limit the inner light inside the vessels. Why? Because it lacks a screen that can restrict and say that only this it receives in order to bestow. Therefore, the lights depart and return. Whereas later, the Ari says the following. Why is there existence and no existence? Look, in the inner light above, it says, it is always in the nature of that light, the light of the Keter, to then depart. because they are in one vessel. Who? Inner light and surrounding light. That vessel has no power to tolerate the light if it is not mate, not mate, in existence and not in existence. And that in inner light is item 21. It says, because they are in one vessel, that vessel has no power to tolerate the light. Because even the world of Nikudim will not be in all 10 Sefirot more than one vessel. That's the reason that one vessel, in one vessel, they are both connected there. What does it mean, one vessel, both are connected? That's what it says here, that it became 10 vessels, they don't depart. There's light that remains in the vessel. So he explains, what is the vessel? What does it mean that they are both connected in one vessel? Where's that vessel where they are connected in? He explains it differently, and he says that since they are in the Rosh, they are one light. Meaning, what is inner light? What is surrounding light? Inner light is the part that it receives. It can receive it in order to bestow. And the surrounding light is called what it cannot receive in order to bestow. And it remains on the outside. He doesn't receive it. After the expansion from the mouth, from Peh and below, then there, in both of them, there's one light, and it takes a portion down to the tabu, and then later it says, I don't want to receive because I cannot aim in order to bestow. Since inner light, the surrounding light comes with one intention, meaning to benefit the created beings. So he argues, seemingly, why are you receiving only a portion? Who will receive the rest? He says, well, you're right. That's why it loses the screen. So now you can receive in order to bestow. No, what he had already, now he also cannot receive that. Those were the reasons. What is a single vessel? The measure of judgment. What are 10 vessels that became later in the world of Atzilut? The association of the measure of mercy in judgment. And the association of the measure of mercy in judgment, then he can receive. Why can he receive? We had that question yesterday as well. Since there's a correction of Chafetz Chesed, delighted in mercy, where in the Anpin of Atzilut, that's why we learn that the Anpin of Atzilut remains always with the lights of Vak. However, if there is a raising of Man, it goes up, it receives. There's no raising of Man, it remains as delighted in mercy. And this correction of delighted in mercy, Chafetz Chesed, wasn't there before. What was there? The measure of judgment. Therefore, when the surrounding light came, it annulled, it got canceled. It doesn't need it anymore. Everything it has was enough. That's the reason that here there was no expression in the world of Atzilut, because there are 10 vessels. So he calls the 10 vessels the association of the measure of mercy and judgment. And this is called delighted in mercy. 24. The reason is that below, the 9 Sefirot, called Nekudot, dots, after the taste, Tamim, that departed, they have the 4 deficiencies of the light. This in itself, this deficiency, will cause the giving of the name of the upper light to be able to call these 4 deficiencies by the name Havaya. They are those The first is the expansion of the light for the first time. At that time, the light begins to expand in the Keter, the first among them. And then all 9 below it lack that light. Meaning, after the lower 9 were elicited, meaning the dots, the kudot, it lacked the light of taste with the light of Keter. It was only from Chokhmah and below. In this way, when the light appeared in the reality of Keter, all the others were still absent. Meaning, when there was the existence of the Keter in Te'amim, in tastes, all the rest were missing from what? From the light of Keter. And this is the first deficiency in the first expansion of the 9 vessels. When the light would shine in the vessels called Yud of Havaya, when the light is shining, nevertheless, there is a deficiency there. What kind of deficiency? The light of Keter, the light of taste, the light of Yud, already is not present in the light of dots. This deficiency is absent in Keter. What was in the tastes, whereas in the taste there was no deficiency left. One word. That's why they don't speak of the tip as a vessel. The tip of the Yud is called no more. Why? There's no deficiency there. Whereas in the Yud, meaning Chokhmah, which is nekudot, dots, there the light shines with a deficiency. It's called Yod, and also called expansion. Well, whereas the dots, when they shine, when the light shines, it's called expansion. And the expansion is called Yod. There's already a deficiency from the light of Keter. Therefore, Yod begins a deficiency. Whereas the tip of the Yud, called Te'amim, tastes, Keter, there's no deficiency there. That is why it's not doing it. That's why it says, what's the meaning of the name of Havaya, specifically in Chokhmah? What is Chokhmah? Dots.
נעבור לחלק הבא של השיעור, לימוד בין חברים כאחד.
We'll move to the next